Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. This is the third video of Kubernetes interview questions. In this video, we will cover the two most important interview questions of Kubernetes. In upcoming video, we will see the advanced interview questions. The main purpose of this video and channel is to provide you easy answers of DevOps interview question, so you can easily explain in your interview. From the perspective of interview, I have prepared these answers. So let's start the video. First we will see the answers of these questions. Okay, that what is the answer, and after that we will do the practical so you can understand and remember easily. Okay, so the first question is that what is services in Kubernetes? Okay, the first question of this video and the third question of our Kubernetes interview series. Okay, this is the third part of our Kubernetes interview question series. Okay, so the question is, what is the services in Kubernetes? In Kubernetes, a service is a method for exposing a network application that is running as one or more pods in your cluster. When you deploy an application on Kubernetes, it's common to run multiple instances of your application across different pods for scalability and reliability. Services provide a consistent way to access these pods, regardless of which node they are running on or their IP addresses. They act as a stable endpoint for accessing your application even as pods are created, deleted or replicated. Okay, so this is the definition, or we can say explanation of that what is services in Kubernetes. Okay, so in this way you can explain it to your interviewer. So the next question is that what are components of Kubernetes services? Okay, so this is also important question. It asks to check your practical knowledge of Kubernetes. Okay, so the answer is Kubernetes services connect a set of pods to an abstracted services name and IP addresses. Services provides a discovery and routing between pods. For example, services connect an application frontend to its backend, each of which running in separate deployments in a cluster. Services use labels and selector to match pods with other applications. Okay, so this is important. Services use the labels and selector to match pods with other applications. This is the most important component of services. Okay, and the core attributes of Kubernetes services are a label selector that locates pod. Okay, the ClusterIP, IP addresses and assign a port number. Okay, the port definitions, optional mapping of incoming ports to target ports. Okay, so these are the core attributes of Kubernetes services. And services can be defined without pod selector. For example, to point a service to another service in a different namespace or a cluster. This is for your more information. This I have included this point. Okay, so this is how you can explain. And after that, this is also important question, that is how many types of services in Kubernetes. Okay, so there are 5 types of services in Kubernetes. The first service is ClusterIP, second service is Nodeport, third is load balancer, fourth is external name, and fifth is headless. Okay, so these are the diagram of Kubernetes services, that is ClusterIP, Nodeport, load balancer and external services. In this video we will cover the first service, that is ClusterIP, and in upcoming video or in next video we will see the another services, that is Nodeport, load balancer, external name and headless. Okay, so in this video we will see only the first service, that is ClusterIP, and after that we will do the practical, that how it works. Okay, so the question number 4, what is ClusterIP services in Kubernetes? Okay, so the answer is ClusterIP is a default and most common service type. Okay, when you define a service without specifying the type field, it defaults to ClusterIP. Okay, so when you define a service without specifying the type field, then it defaults to ClusterIP. So this is the important point. After that, Kubernetes will assign a cluster internal IP address to ClusterIP service. Okay, this makes the service only reachable within the cluster. Okay, after that you cannot make the request to service from outside the cluster. Okay, so we cannot access the application from outside the cluster. We can only access the cluster. We can only access the application only within the cluster. Okay, not outside the cluster using the ClusterIP service. Okay, so this is the fourth point, that is this type of service is useful for applications that needs to communicate with each other within the same cluster, do not need to be accessed from outside the cluster. Okay, so you have to explain this point. Okay, this is the most important point. Okay, now you can optionally set ClusterIP in the service definition file. Inter-service communication within the cluster. Okay, for example, communication between the front-end and back-end components of your application. Okay, so always keep in mind this type of service is useful for the application that need to communicate with each other within the same cluster. Okay, but do not need to be accessed from outside the cluster. In this case we can use the ClusterIP service only. Okay, so and the most another important point is that when you define a service without specifying the type field, then it is default to ClusterIP. Okay, so let's do the practical so you can easily understand. Okay, so here the deployment YAML manifest file of a Nginx server. Okay, and these are the commands. Okay, so that is kubectl -f deploy.yaml. Okay, and these four are below command. We will see these commands in the practical, that how it works. Okay, so this is the deployment.yaml file, or we can say deployment YAML manifest file. So this file defines a Kubernetes deployment named as Nginx deployment. Okay, so the name of deployment is Nginx deployment. After that, with a single replica, that is replicas is 1. Okay, you can see here. After that, it specifies that it should be use a Nginx container based on Nginx Alpine image. Okay, that is we used Nginx Alpine image here. Okay, you can see Nginx container. The name of container is a Nginx container, and the image we are using is a Nginx Alpine image. Okay, and exposes a port that is 8080. Okay, so this is our deployment.yaml file, and after that these are the commands. So for example, kubectl apply -f deploy.yaml. This command applies the deployment configuration in deployment.yaml. Okay, and after that the kubectl get deployments, it retrieves the information about the deployments. And the third command, that is kubectl get pods, it gives the lists of pods running in the cluster. Okay, and the fourth command is kubectl get pods -o wide. Okay, this command gives the list pods with more detailed information. Okay, list of pods with more detailed information. And after that, the next command is kubectl exec it pod name --sh. Okay, and this is our command which executes a shell inside the specified for. And the curl pod IP, this is another command. Okay, so curl pod IP :80, this is another command. Just I make the correction. Okay, and what it does, it sends a GET request to the Nginx pod IP address on port 80. Okay, so these are the commands to deploy this YAML file. We will discuss in the practical, so you will understand easily and more easy way. Okay, so after that, the service YAML manifest file. Okay, this is a ClusterIP services. Okay, so this file defines a Kubernetes service named as Nginx service. Okay, this is Nginx service, name Nginx service. Okay, after that selects pod with a label, that is app Nginx. Okay, here you can see app Nginx, and it exposes the port that is 9376. Okay, which forward traffic to 80 on selected port. Okay, so this is the manifest file of service YAML. We will do the practical so you will easily understand. And these are the commands. Okay, to execute or to apply this YAML file. Okay, so let's do the practical. Okay, so to do this practical, we are using the EC2 instance of AWS. Okay, so on EC2 instance I have installed the Minikube. Okay, and we are using the Minikube cluster to do this practical. Okay, on Minikube cluster we are doing this practical. Okay, so let's start. Sudo su. Okay, so here are the files and directory, and I have created one folder, that is, or directory we can say, that is practice. So in this directory there is nothing. Okay, so just we do the practical. So the first file, that is deployment.yaml. To save the time, I have just copied here, and we are just copy and pasting to do this practical. So for example, deploy.yaml, here just paste this. Okay, the label is Nginx. Okay, the replicas 1, and the name of deployment, that is Nginx deployment. The container port is 80, and the image we are using, that is Nginx Alpine. Okay, so just save it. Okay, and just we have to apply it. ctl apply -f deploy.yaml. Okay, so here you can see the Nginx deployment is created. Okay, so now how we can access it? So how we know that it is successfully created? So the command is kubectl get deployment. Okay, so here you can see the name of deployment is Nginx deployment, and one of one. Okay, and it is available, and the age is 24 seconds. Okay, so here you can see that kubectl get pods. Okay, and here you can see the pod is also created. Okay, by using the deployment. Okay, after that we will see that kubectl get pods, the pod details. Okay, the pod details, that is the IP address of pod, and by using this command we will get the IP address of pod. Okay, just keep in mind. Okay, so we will execute, we will enter in the pod. So let's execute the shell. Okay, so the command is, that is kubectl exec -it, and we require the pod name here. So just wait one more time. Kubectl get pods, no void. Okay, so by using this command we will get the pod name and the IP address of pod. Okay, so just copy the pod name, and now we will execute the shell of the specific pod, that is kubectl exec -it, the pod name -- space sh. Okay, so successfully we will enter and executed the shell, okay, of the specific pod. Okay, so now we have to just use the command, that is curl, and paste this IP address. Okay, so here you can see we successfully accessed the Nginx web server or the application, we can say, and we also access like this curl IP address and :80. Okay, without 80 or with 80, both way we can access it. Okay, so this is how we can access the application without the services inside the cluster. Okay, so now we will see the how we can access the application or the Nginx server using the ClusterIP service. Okay, so let's do the practical of service. So we will exit this, and here what we have to do, we have to create this file. Okay, and apply these commands. Okay, so just copy this service.yml code, that is manifest, and here you can see the deployment.yml file. Okay, by using this we create the deployment, and now we will access the application, okay, of this deployment using the ClusterIP service. Okay, so let's create one file, that is service.yml, and just paste the code here. Okay, so just save it. Okay, and just apply the command, that kubectl apply -f service apply -f service.yml. okay, and here you can see using this command the service is successfully applied or created. Okay, so how we will check this, that using this command, that is kubectl get svc. This is command to know the service is created or not. Okay, so here you can see the Nginx service, the name of service we are provided, and the cluster IP of the service. Okay, so our service is created successfully. Now we have to access this application or the Nginx server using the service, using this ClusterIP service. Okay, so let's execute this command, that is kubectl get pods -o void. Okay, by using this command we will get the IP address of pod and the name of pod. Okay, and now we will execute the shell of the pod, that is kubectl, using this command, that is kubectl exec -it. Now we have to put the pod name, so just we will copy this pod name, just paste it, and hyphen space sh. Okay, so we will successfully enter in the inside the pod. Okay, so now we have to access the application using the service, that is ClusterIP service. So how we can access it? So the command is curl service IP address of the service and the port that is 9376. Okay, so let's do this. That is curl, and we have to put the IP address of the service. This is the IP address of the service, and what is our port that we are provided? That is 9376. So 9376. Okay, so here you can see we successfully access the application or the Nginx server, we can say, using the ClusterIP service. Okay, or we can also access the application using the curl service name and the port number. Okay, instead of ClusterIP address, you can also use the service name. Okay, so this is how you can access the application inside the cluster using ClusterIP service. And in upcoming video we will see the next services, that is Nodeport or load balancing services or headless services. Okay, so upcoming video we will see the another services with the practical, so you will easily understand. Okay, and one more important point, that we have to enable the inbound rules in our security groups. Okay, we have to edit the inbound rule and provide these ports, that is 9376. Okay, and 80 port also. Okay, so without enabling this port we cannot access the application. Okay, so keep in mind we have to edit the inbound rules. Okay, and we have to enable the 80 port and the 9376 port. Okay, so thank you. In upcoming video we will see the another services, that is Nodeport, load balancer, or the headless, and in this video we will cover only one service, that is ClusterIP. Okay, so subscribe my channel. We will meet in another video with another entry questions. Take care. Goodbye.